Liebe Gäste, zum Einführungsreferat bitte ich eine Frau mit einer beeindruckenden literarischen Schaffenskraft im Bereich spannender und gleichzeitig kriminalistischer Literatur. Donna, I will translate for you. So for this lecture, I invite a woman with an amazing impact in literature of human and still human criminal kind. I don't know the right, I hope I say it correctly. A woman with humor, heart, not only for Brunetti, and an in-depth knowledge of the world and literature. If you are at the table or one has the honor to receive an email from you, it's never boring. Wenn man von Donna Leon, wenn man sie am Tisch hat oder ein E-Mail von ihr erhält, ist es nie langweilig. So I have the great honor and the great pleasure to introduce Donna Leon, a best-selling author and ambassador of DO-HEALTH, to give this introduction lecture. And the secret title is All About Shit. That's right. So, ich darf Sie nun einladen zum Referat von Donna Leon. Donna, the stage is yours.
It's a special gizmo for short people. We become. Can I take it home and use it forever? Here we are again, this year to talk about something that we are taught as children not to talk about. A prohibition so strong that I think for many people it remains in force throughout our lives. So even as adults, we don't talk about it. Yes, excretion. The quite natural and necessary process by which the body rids itself of what we put into it. We learn as children not to discuss excretion. What happens in the toilet is private and not to be spoken of. This command, which I believe is given to most children, stays with us throughout our lives. The prohibition is enforced in many cultures by putting words dealing with excretion into a separate category. One does not say shit in public. Crap is a bit more presentable, but not really. As the English say, using these words is not done. Early on, the child growing up in most cultures learns that there is something intrinsically dirty in the business of excretion. It stinks, and we are forced to go off and be alone while we attend to it. The first British colonists in America were told to go 1/4 mile from the outer fences of their settlements to do the necessities of nature. Contact with it is considered unhealthy and disgusting. This is reflected linguistically in the way most cultures have invented a broad spectrum of polite or semi-polite words to use in our all but universal refusal to say shit, or its equivalent, at least in formal situations. Just think of the many words, my examples will be in English, invented to name not the process itself or its product, but the place where the process takes place. Toilet, loo, bathroom, comfort room. They don't reveal what's going on. Every culture has produced the properly evasive names for the place where excretion takes place, just as cultures have invented euphemisms for the act itself. At the same time that polite society was slamming closed the linguistic bathroom door two of Europe's most famous artists were kicking it open. Mozart wrote his scatological letters, songs, and canons, and Jonathan Swift wrote Gulliver's Travels. Indeed, Swift was considered insane for the frequency with which he wrote about excretion, not only in Gulliver's Travels, but in some of his poetry and essays as well. Gulliver can be used as an example of how powerful is the taboo against the mention of shit. The book was never banned or censored, but was simply dismissed to the world of children's literature. And so a deeply philosophical examination of human nature became a bedtime story. Gulliver's Travels bursts with mention of elimination and excretion. In the first book, the giant Gulliver with the Lilliputians puts out a fire in the royal palace of the miniature king and queen by urinating on it. The disgusting yahoos in book 4 climb into trees and weaponize their shit by throwing it down on the people who are attacking them. On the island of La Puta, experimenters search for a way to turn excrement back into food. No matter where he travels, sooner or later, Gulliver is confronted with shit. The book is an odyssey of coprophilia. I mention the book to suggest how the taboo against a discussion, even a mention of shit, has failed to be filtered out of our literature or our minds, where it remains. I'd like now to take a moment to contradict everything I've said so far, for there is one circumstance in which people freely discuss shit. I assume that many people here have a dog. I further assume that this has led you and the people you meet while you are walking your dogs into endless, complicated, and apparently very instructive conversations about the toilet habits of your dogs. Taboo evaporates. Embarrassment goes on vacation, while dog owners exchange pieces of information that leave us, the dogless, open-mouthed with astonishment. I can almost hear you saying, and your growing concern, this is the DO-HEALTH conference? So what is she doing with all this shit? My purpose is to suggest that the embarrassment created by the taboo on this most basic human function can affect our health in a negative way, and so I finally come to the point. The prohibition against open talk or writing about excretion can sometimes, and I suspect often, affect the way we speak about this physical function with our doctors. No one is embarrassed to say, I think my vision is getting worse, doctor. Or, doctor, my hair is falling out, but not about what happens in the bathroom, where speech passes from euphemism to embarrassment. Okay, consider the scene. An elderly person speaks to a doctor who is young enough to be his or her grandchild. The subject is the function of the patient's bowels. The doctor might ask a generalized question, any problem with your bowels? Are your bowel habits normal? The patient is being asked to describe this very private, intimate part of his or her own life. There is the doctor's question, which comes from curiosity and concern. The answer, however, is affected by language and its taboos and the embarrassment that often accompanies discussion of this subject. There is also the confusion about what normal, used in this context, might mean. The thought comes to me that cultural norms might further complicate this discussion. People of a certain age my age, for example, seem to be more conservative in speech. We swear less, we are more reluctant to talk about sex, and I suspect we are also more reluctant to discuss, in this case, I have no trouble finding the right word, shit. If so, then both doctor and patient would be helped if they could somehow speak more easily about this subject, if the embarrassment, to the degree that it exists on either side of the conversation, could somehow be lessened or entirely prevented. I have no doubt that both patient and doctor would be relieved if there were a method for them to discuss digestion, elimination, and shit as they would any other process of the body. Euphemism, evasion, and fancy language lead only to confusion. Clarity between doctor and patient are necessary for diagnosis and cure. It is a terrible thought that a person's reluctance to say shit could do them harm and leave them, as it were, in the shit. Thank you.
Donna, you have to wait. Donna, so I think you really broke the ice for shit. Donna Leon hat das Eis gebrochen für alles, was wir jetzt besprechen werden. These are the Christmas mice for you. And as I know you are really dependent on chocolate.
I wonder what this is.
Donna, thank you so much. This was a wonderful and enjoyable introduction to this afternoon. I cannot imagine anything better than that, really.
Well, I hope it does ease things and make the conversation flow more easily and relaxed. In at least, as it were, in this situation where you are dealing with a delicate topic. And I think that the more direct the conversation becomes, the better it is for everybody.
I fully agree. Donna, thank you so much for being with us. Big applause for Donna Leon.